menu moves really
Alright.
quick.
Countdown.
3, 2, 1, go. Alright, what's up everyone? You just watched Runner Guide, destroy 100%, collect everything in the game. This is the speedrun where you beat the game as fast as possible, and it's kind of been quite a story how it's come to be this way. Years ago in like 2005, it was mostly natural route. You would just kind of go through the game, you know, in the order intended. And then people realized, oh, well, we could probably skip the Lens of Truth if we like memorize the Wasteland. So then you could like skip the Lens of Truth and, you know, get through the Shadow Temple without the lens. And then more things got discovered. And eventually, this guy named Krite found this thing called the Trials Skip, where you push this statue against the wall, and you can get through the wall and get up Ganon's tower without beating the 6 like mini dungeons. And we call those the Trials. And that was kind of like the first major skip in the game. And shortly after, like, there's a whole group of people all trying to discover stuff at the same time. They were all in the Speed Demos Archives forums. There's basically like Ocarina time threads that have like hundreds and hundreds of pages that go way back, and like there would be new posts every single day. I remember I was like really, back then I was just like a lurker. I was just like, man, like this is cool stuff. I would just like read the threads every day, like, oh, what are they gonna find next? Because you know it's like such a cool game, and I'm like really fascinated personally, and I know a lot of people here are as well, of like the huge number of like things you can. Like the interesting things you can do in different games, and like seeing what's actually possible without cheating. And it's been quite a ride. In 2006, Kazooie, he's from Finland, and he found a ton of stuff, including Shadow Temple early, which when you get to the Shadow Temple early, that was something on its own, just because you could get hover boots and start destroying the other dungeons with the hover boots, which you're not supposed to have yet. And then after that, people realize, wait, if I beat the Shadow Temple early and I beat the Spirit Temple, it gives me the light arrows. So that actually skips 3 dungeons. You'd still have to go through the Forest Temple to get the bow. And for a while the game was kind of like that, beat the Child Dungeons, do Shadow Temple early, and then beat the Spirit Temple as well, and get the bow. And so that skipped a couple dungeons plus the Trials. And then later on, a bunch of stuff happened all at once. Like this is where it was all like the glory days. Like everyone's going in full, like trying to find all sorts of crazy stuff. And Kazooie also found this glitch called Bottle Adventure, which let you catch different bottles or catch stuff in your bottle, and you can get a bottle over where your sword is supposed to be. And it's a really crazy glitch where instead of a sword you have a bottle and you catch stuff, and every time you catch stuff, it writes the value of the item you catch like somewhere else that's not supposed to be. So you could literally catch bugs with a certain item, and it would write the medallions into your inventory without ever going to the dungeons. So then that was like the fastest way to beat the game. And then Kazooie and AKA found this skip called the Door of Time skip. It's one of the most famous skips in all video games. That skip skips the child dungeons. This skips the entire child section. And so using all that stuff together, basically you would just skip all the child dungeons, go adult, and then go through the trading sequence to like catch stuff in bottles, which would write stuff into your inventory. And you would write the lullaby, which lets you get magic. Then you'd write the medallions, and then you'd also write a quiver. And so with those items, you could shoot the light arrow at Ganondorf to defeat Ganondorf and then get to the end of the game. And like for a really long time, we were like, that's it, man. Like, there's no way we can break this game anymore. There's a bottleneck at Ganondorf. Like, you have to get past Ganondorf, so you need light arrows with magic, usable magic, and a quiver with arrows. So, like, there's nothing else you can do. And it actually was kind of complicated, because there was actually a lot of different routes involving, like, what's actually the quickest way to go about that. And it did take quite a while. There's, like, different discoveries found. Like, getting to the pond without using the hook shot was necessary, and like there's a lot of stuff that was discovered along the way. But eventually, last year, someone named Christian F23, he was in the Water Temple, and he was trying to skip the cutscene after beating the Water Temple. And what ended up happening was for one frame, it was possible to skip the cutscene, and no one had realized it before. And he was like, "Wow, I wonder if this works in other places." And he tried it in all the different dungeons, and it turns out that after he tried it in the Fire Temple, it warped him to the Forest Temple, which was really crazy. Right there, I did a Navi dive to get out of the forest early without beating the Deku Tree. I'm going to be heading to Kakariko now. But anyway, on with the story. So yeah, it was kind of like, what the hell? You can go from the Fire Temple to the Forest Temple? That doesn't make any sense at all. And that night, we all like got on Skype or whatever, and like we all just spent hours and hours and hours trying to like mess with that glitch, because it was so weird. And we went back to this older glitch that a Krite did with Frore's Wind, where you would warp to a certain place in the game, and it turns out we can use that to like warp to like all over the game, like because you would interrupt beating a dungeon, and then you would use that warp in order to go to like somewhere entirely you're not supposed to, and there was crazy unpredictable results. You can actually warp directly into a beta cutscene that wasn't removed from the game, and it's really like we were just like going crazy, and for a while we thought that we figured it out again, because there was a way to warp from beating Dodongo's Cavern directly into the credits. So that was like, wow, we did it, we skipped Ganondorf, we got past the bottleneck. And some people, like, this was pretty crazy for some people, because some people thought that, like, is this really beating the game? Like, he didn't even beat the final boss, you just, like, go right to the credits. But, like, it was really interesting and really cool. And so for a while, like, oh, well, this is it, man. This is, like, the final thing. So ZFG, shoutouts to ZFG, he did, like, over 600 attempts and tried to get, like, a really, really good run of it. And he actually did. He got, like, a really strong record in that. And that run took about 47 minutes to beat the game, from the beginning to warping to the credits. And so we were like, wow, you know, like, 47, that's, like, huge, right? And, and then this run came along. Basically, what happened was, someone did the math. Someone named Rob Dog was looking at the table of entrances in the game, and he did the math, and he figured out that there was potential for an even faster way to beat the game. And then someone named Sockfolder tried it out, and it worked. And so that's kind of what this run's going to be, and you're going to see the new fastest way to beat the game. And it's almost like, once again, the game's finally been solved again, but it is Ocarina of Time, so, you know, it's, who knows, really.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but this run depends on me getting the bottle, which is the reason I'm leaving the forest. And I'm not going to get the bottle to do anything other than just one small glitch that's just like a side effect. It's not even that important, but I do need it to make this work. So the entire reason for leaving the forest was simply to get the bottle, which is where I am now. And I'm collecting the chickens, and the fastest bottle is to collect them. And after I collect them, then we're gonna go on an adventure.
Okay, so really quickly, guys, this run is literally so fast. I need to do this really quickly so that I can't, you know, I have to get this plug in real quick. If you guys need to donate now. This particular 80% is gonna be over really, really quickly. All right, Cosmo's gonna do it real fast. So donate now, get these prizes. That's it. All right, I'm good.
All right.
You got to the commentary part.
You got time for some donations?
No. No.
You actually do have a bit of time. I just save warp to go back to Link's house to get back to the forest, and that's all you need to know.
Alright, just cut me off whenever. Got $30 from Stanley Arrow. Hey guys, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Put this money towards Beard's Choice.
Thank you, thank you.
$30 from Taylor Harris. Thanks to everyone for helping out. A great cause. Awesome run towards whatever run a guy wants. Also, you should do the Iron Boot Challenge on Ganon if it hasn't already happened. Sorry, a bit later than that. $30 from Talon Bennett. Great job all. Haven't been able to sleep more than a few hours at a time this week. Put to the Reader's Choice. So that's SMK for Pokemon Gold Rival. $30 from Phoenix Fison. So many wonderful prizes up for grabs during the Zelda block. I'd like $15 to go towards Mirror's Choice, and the other $15 to go towards Frank Z.
Oh, yeah.
$30 from William Whitecop. Here's to watching Spy Shark run Virgil in Devil May Cry. $5 from Joseph Winzetson. I'm over budget for donations, but here's hoping to get the ball rolling on naming the Wind Waker file Octodad, because Octodad is the real winner here. $15.23 from Benjamin Thacker. This is the best charity program I've ever seen. I can only wish I was as good at video games as you all. Put the money towards Reader's Choice. Okay. $40 from Noah Lynn. You guys are amazing. Here's $40 for Mirrored's choice of the Wind Waker file name. $25 from Kevin Colangelo. I forgot to put my previous 2 donations towards something, so let Cosmo pick where he wants these to go.
Cosmo?
Any choices, Cosmo?
Oh, Mirrored's choice for Wind Waker file name.
Thank you.
Alright, so, as you saw, I bought the shield, and now I'm heading into the Decatry, the first dungeon. Kind of as intended, except that I have a bottle with bugs in them. And that's the only real difference. And so now I'm going to go through the tree. The Decatry is actually like the most technical dungeon. There's actually like a lot of very difficult things happening all at once. So right here, like I'm going to oops, yeah, that's the first one. So I was supposed to pause the game and equip my stuff here. And then if I pull out the stick right as I climb the vines, it skips the text, but unfortunately I ran into the text. That's a very minor time saver. There's basically like a lot of minor time savers here. Another thing you have to watch out for here is these skullslids on the wall. I'm trying to avoid them looking at me, and pretty good luck. This guy's kind of, yeah, okay. And then right here, what I want to do is break the web and then get down to the basement. Oh, good. Okay, so
Nice.
that's pretty hard. This is, I'm probably gonna mess this one up. Okay, yeah. That's okay. I got other strats. Right there, I tried to do this thing called flame storage, where you like detach your sword's hitbox on the torch, and then it lights after you pull out the stick later. It's pretty cool. So unfortunately, I missed that, but not a big deal. And if you notice, I'm at really low health now. I want to be at low health, so that was intentional. Okay, that was pretty good. Alright, so now I'm going to go fight Goma, the boss. If you notice, I skipped getting the slingshot, and I skipped going around the first basement. I was able to skip the first basement by doing that recoil trick. This is sort of like the fastest way for Child Link to get to the basement. I think it's kind of funny with how broken this game is. There's still no way to like clip through the first vine on the first floor. You have to go up and break it as Child Link. Adult Link can get through with the hookshot, but... yeah, so here's Goma, and there's something really interesting here. I want to die and kill Goma at the same time, because you see that stone slab that just closed? That needs to be open, and since it closed, the only way for me to like get it to go back up is to leave the room. And the fastest way for me to leave the room is to die. So I'm going to kill Goma and die at the same time, on the same frame. Okay, so now Goma's going to die, Link's going to die, and it's going to send me back to the beginning of the tree. And then I have to make my way back into the boss room again. And the reason I'm even going here in the first place is because of the blue warp that spawns after Goma dies. That is the key to beating this game ridiculously fast. And keep in mind, this method, like I was saying, this took years and years, over 10 years, like 13 years to discover how to do. So, you know, you never know what you'd find in games if you put enough time into them. So now to get down, I'm doing this thing called the Mega Side Hop. It's a one-frame side hop thing. You recoil and you keep a bunch of speed. That was... okay, yeah, I could have gone a little bit faster right there. I jump slashed too early, but like that was still pretty fast. So as you can see, like the Decatry, it's pretty technical. It's like you wouldn't expect that out of a Zelda title, especially a 3D Zelda title, to be fast-paced like that. But this is where the true magic's gonna happen. And right here, I'm gonna recatch the bugs in my bottle. And I'm doing that so I can do a glitch called Ocarina items, which lets me like play a fake Ocarina with one of my items. And I'm also gonna be in a specific position. Okay. Okay. Okay, and then right here, target, turn. Okay, so what that did was it took me. So Ganondorf's dead now. we bypassed needing the light arrows and all that. And I guess I should explain this now. So the way this works is there's these blue warps, right? What they do is they send you to a certain location, and they also set if there's going to be a cutscene happening or not. And basically what happened was you're supposed to step into them, and then you lose control of Link. It plays the cutscene, it takes Link up, then it sets the value that there's going to be a cutscene, and the warp takes you to the correct location. In this case, it should have taken me to Kokiri Forest and played the cutscene of the Deku Tree giving me the Kokiri's Emerald. Instead, what happened was I did that glitch called Ocarina Items, and the way that works is, for whatever reason, after you have bugs in your hand and you're in the air, if you press the button for the bug, and then you press another button, Link will play the item that you pressed second like it's an ocarina. It doesn't make any sense really, but that glitch is crucial because it lets you maintain control of Link after the warp tries to take you away. And what's happening is I got on that pillar in the room and got on a specific part of the pillar and did a certain movement pattern so that when I backflipped, the frame Link's feet hit the ground, which would trigger Ocarina items, is also the same frame that triggers the blue warp carrying me up. So what happens is I'm in the warp as it's activating with Ocarina items, and that's important because there's a B button that says cancel. So the way it works is I wait until a certain part of that little cutscene, and then I cancel it. And as I cancel it, the blue warp starts counting up from 0. There's an internal timer in the game. It counts from 0 up to 101. Every frame it ticks up 1. So after 101 frames, it would take me to the cutscene because the animation's over. But what happens is I move in a certain way through the room so that I get the blue warp off the camera at a certain time. And when the blue warp's far enough off the camera, the N64 tries to conserve memory. So the warp itself is no longer an object that's considered important enough to be loaded because of its position on the camera. And when that happens, that timer that's counting up to 101 freezes. And at that point, hold on here. I gotta kill these guys. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm actually low on health here. I gotta watch out. Okay, that was a little more scary than it needed to be.
The Deku stick does more damage than his little sword.
Yeah, so it's basically that timer. It pauses when I'm in a certain part of the room, and I know what the number is at. Well, I don't know the actual number, but I know it's at a certain number that I want. And then I can basically tell where I am in the hallway, based on where I walked. And when I do that, I can turn the camera and load the warp for an instant, which will get it to tick up a couple more times as I do the 180 camera switch. And that gets the warp to be the correct number so that when I walk through the door, and I have to walk through the correct part of the door, but when I walk through the door, it counts up to the final numbers and hits 101 as its value. And on the exact frame that it hits 101, it loads the Deku Tree basement. And this is kind of how this whole wrong warping thing works, is because it knows it's supposed to load a cutscene, and it also needs to load the basement. And the way they did it, the way they handle cutscenes after you beat a dungeon, is that it adds a value to the location. So instead of Kokiri Forest, it's Kokiri Forest plus 5, 5 being the cutscene it needs to play. And so what happened was, instead of loading Kokiri Forest plus 5, it loaded Deku Tree Basement plus that number. And there's no cutscene in the Deku Tree Basement. So when it adds 5 or whatever, it goes past the basement and hits the next area in the game. And it just so happens that the areas in the game, internally, are all kind of in sort of a random order. And it just so happens that the basement of the Deku Tree afterwards is part of the tower collapse, which is past Ganondorf. So it put me in that room. And then when I left the room, it realized I was outside the tower, and because it was my first time ever outside the tower, it played the cutscene because it thought I just killed Ganondorf. So Ganondorf dies in front of you, Child Link, and you walk through the escape, and you get down to the bottom, and then here's the showdown with Ganon. And this is, it's faster than warping into the credits, which is possible, like I said earlier, but It's hard to say if this run's ever going to be any faster. There is a crazy theoretical tool-assisted only method of going down the tower. You'd have to get the slingshot and then shoot the ladder down in the Deku Tree. And then when you wrong warp here, one of the iron bars are open because it preserves the dungeon's temporary flags when you wrong warp. So one of the bars would be open, but the problem is the only way to fall down far enough without the game detecting that you jumped off the tower is to get hit by a falling rock in midair. And you'd have to do that twice, and all the rocks are randomly generated. So there's no way for a human being to do that skip with the slingshot thing. But that would be like a theoretical, tool-assisted only way of doing this faster. Also, if you notice, when I was fighting the stall post, I used this glitch called the infinite sword glitch, which I'm sure you saw many times in Runner Guys run. It basically lets this sword be always out and active, and I use the Deku stick because it's actually as powerful as the Master Sword, and that's true of Ganon as well. So I'll be using the stick on Ganon as he knocks away my puny little sword. There's one kind of tense moment right at the beginning of this fight. I have to get Infinite Sword Glitch off of Navi targeting Ganon's head. If I don't get it, I'm gonna run like hell, because Ganon will kill me. I only have one shot at getting it. If I don't get it though, I can get it again, but I'll have to be kind of careful about it. So I want to just kind of focus right here. It's also extra hard too, because I have to use the C stick to hit C up, and it's frame perfect. Yeah, I guess so. Got it. So yeah, it's supposed to take 10 hits, because you're supposed to use like whatever weapons, and then, like the boss Ganon has like a table of all your items, or like all your weapons against him, and they all do 1 damage, but they never change the value of the Deku stick, because you're not supposed to be able to use them, so it does full Master Sword damage. You could skip Deku Stick, but there's no point. So, he knocked away the real Master Sword, and I'm able to pick it up and use it to finish off Ganon. Master Sword's the only weapon that will work in, like, the final blow. So it's convenient that it gets knocked away, even though I never had it, and I can pick it back up.
And the game considers you that.
And time.
22:38.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty good time.
So even though you are a child in this particular instance, it still considers you having the Master Sword for that second half of the fight?
Yeah, like usually, even if you have the Master Sword in your inventory and you're Child Link, you can't equip it. But because it's on the ground and you just pick it up, it automatically equips it. So, oh, sorry, my bad.